Okay. Okay, introducing my next special guest on my show now. We in for a bit of a treat now because I'm joined by Rick Witter of Shed 7, which has been a household name to say the least over, the decades we've all kind of grown up with your music. I just want to say thanks for taking time out to join me today. And first off, importantly, how are you today?
Hi, Danny. I'm very well, thank you very much, and thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
That's great to have you on. I'm just going to talk about briefly about the timeline leading up to today and talk about some new music a little bit later on.
hmm
You're on a 30th anniversary tour. Congratulations on that, firstly.
Thank you. Yeah, so 30 years. I don't know where that's gone. I am only 29 years old, so I don't know quite physically how that's worked, but it has somehow.
Brilliant. Well, I must say that you look really good for 29 anyway.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. No, it's great. It's great. I mean, obviously 30 years is a batch of time, but it's weird because it doesn't really feel like it's been that long, really. I mean, to be fair, we formed in 1990 as Shed 7, so that's 34 years. Um, and previous to that, we were in school bands together, me, Tom, and Paul, who were the crux of Shed 7. So we're getting on for like 40 years as friends writing music together. But obviously, 94 was when we signed a record deal and started releasing records. So we're enjoying this 30th anniversary year. I mean, to be fair, it's been a bit of a roller coaster over the years, like anything would be
Mm.
if you stick at things. So we've just clung on to the roller coaster. To be honest, we've had ups, we've had downs, we've had success, we've had lean times. But weirdly, I think maybe 1996 was up until now probably our best year. But I think 2024 has even usurped that. We're having more success now than I think we've ever had, which is crazy in our 30th anniversary year.
That's amazing. So remember like the late 80s into the early 1990s, it was a massive turning point in music. The 80s were kind of electro and then
Mm-hmm.
people started picking up guitars again. Does it seem like yesterday when you first started out?
Well, it does. I mean, weirdly, as part of this thing we've been doing, as part of our 30th celebrations, we went back to our old school because me, Tom, and Paul were in the same school year at the same school. And we went back there not so long ago this year for various reasons. And the headmaster was showing us around, and I felt 14 again. It felt really weird to be going back somewhere that was such a long time ago. But then equally, it felt like yesterday.
Mm.
It's really weird how life carries itself and how you just cling on again to it. But yes, I remember those times in the kind of late 80s. We were in a school band, but we were listening to things like the House Martins, and we were doing cover versions of stuff like that. So we've always been into the jingly jangly kind of pop, as well as some electro stuff. And then the Stone Roses come along in '89, and that's what kind of made us stop and think, right, we need to take ourselves more seriously, because the Stone Roses kind of hit us like a bit of a train, really. It wasn't just the music, it was the swagger, it was the attitude, you know, and we wanted a bit of that. So that's at the point where that's when we became Shed 7 in 1990 and started upping our game songwriting wise. And then that led to 94 when we'd spent a few years writing what became our debut album. Yeah.
And I heard that REM, Michael Stipe was quite inspirational for you. Like say the one I love, that's a standout track, 1987.
Yes. Well, I got into REM around about the Green album time. So that would have been about 1988. And I really loved that album. And the brilliant thing about that was, through the love of that album, I discovered that they'd had about 6 studio albums previous to that. So
Mm.
it was such a thrill to be able to spend months diving into another band's back catalogue and discovering all these great songs I'd never heard of.
Mm.
And, that might be the case with us today. There might be somebody who hears our last studio album, likes it, and discovers that we've got 5 others that's just there ready to be heard. That's the power and the quality of good
Mm.
music.
Mm. I'm just going to briefly mention Pulp because they're a Yorkshire band. I know Common People, but they had a massive back catalogue before then. Took them time to establish
They did.
themselves.
I think they formed in about 1981 or something
Mm.
ridiculous, didn't they? And they only really started getting success in 92 or something. So they were going an awful long time before
Mm.
people picked their ears up and started listening. Yeah.
Mm. And I come across a song called Dolphin. That was a top of the pops moment for you.
Mm.
Would you say that was a breakthrough moment when that first transmitted?
Yeah, well, that was our second single. It was the second single off our debut album. Weirdly, the first single we ever released was called Mark, and that was released, I think, on March the 7th by Shed 7, and it got to number 77 in the charts. So that was a bit weird, all the sevens. And then Dolphin was the second single, which was released, which went into the charts and started garnering all of that interest that was to come. So it was a pivotal moment for us, that,
Mm.
yeah. And we still play that song live now.
Brilliant. And one of the hardest things of putting a band together is like getting the stage name. And I know in previous interviews, you've been asked how you come up with the name. Is it true you were on a train journey and you saw like a train yard, and when the sheds, the seventh one in the row, it was unnumbered, and you noticed it, and that's how you conjured up the name of your band.
Yeah, so there was 10 huge train sheds just the other side of Leeds train station as we were departing on the train, and we noticed each one of these huge train sheds had a door on with a number, and it was shed 1, shed 2, but shed 7 was the only one that didn't have a door on it. So I said that must be shed 7. And this was a time where we were desperate for a band name. I think we had a gig booked in and we needed a band name. So we became Shed 7. And I know that that's not really the most romantic of words to have in your band title, Shed, but, you know, these things just become normalized in
Mm.
time. It's like if we could have called ourselves Kajagoogoo, and after a while, everyone just says the name. They don't really think about what it is. It's just
Mm.
the name. So, yes, so lots of people took the mickey at the time, but we're still here doing it so
Yeah,
many years later. So,
that's what counts, really. You're here
yes,
and now.
exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
On to the next one, Going for Gold. That's another fan's favourite. Do you think by that time you found your feet, you were up and running?
Yeah, so a lot of bands go through this difficult second album syndrome, which is a thing, but we kind of dodged that. We released our debut album. It was quite rough and ready, and it was songs that we'd had for 3 or 4 years and played them live quite a lot. So we found ourselves signed to a record label, and then they were insisting on the next album. But it literally took us a year to write, and it was all very upbeat, very positive. All the song titles alone, like Getting Better, Going for Gold,
Mm.
Maximum High, it was all very positive and upbeat. So we kind of dodged that difficult second album and actually went the other way. And that was the stepping stone between debut and second album that kind of really took us into 1996. And as I've said previously, probably became our best
Mm.
year for a long time after. We had 5 top 40 singles that year. No other band charted 5 times that year. We were the only band to do that, which was a great thing. And we started touring the world. So it was a great time for us, yeah.
Yeah, so on to my next question, which just mentioned the year 1996, a key year. What's your feelings of the present reruns on Top of the Pops? Do you think it's refreshing, it's bringing the audience to a younger generation?
Well, yeah, totally. I mean, obviously, I might look back at some of those performances and be like that through my fingers, but that's because I'm not really keen on looking at myself. But yes, I understand the importance of retroness, and if you can pick up new fans along the way. The great thing with us now is we went through the 90s having quite a lot of success with the Britpop era, and then we kind of stopped for a while, and then we reformed and found ourselves playing our old songs at gigs, and we almost became a little bit of a nostalgia act, and we kind of openly admitted that we were quite happy just going out and playing our old songs. But then we accidentally started writing new songs in 2017, and since then we've had 2 studio albums, and now we've got this posh greatest hits coming out. So we're kind of a relevant band again now. We're writing new material and we're holding our own against these acts that are out and popular today. So it's great. It's a great feeling to be a relevant
Mm.
act again.
That's amazing. I first discovered you on Now That's What I Call Music 35. Again, that's another great accolade to feature on
Yeah,
that collection. And
yeah.
I believe it was Chasing Rainbows, which is a glorious song.
No, thank you. Yes. So obviously that's probably our calling card. That was the song that has stood the test of time and stayed with us. We could never not play that live. We'd get lynched if we didn't play that live. We always play it last in the set because everyone knows it's the moment. And then we'll sing that song, and then we'll drop down at the end, and everyone sings Chasing Rainbows back at us. And then there's times where we'll leave the stage, and 15, 20 minutes later, when we're sat in the dressing room, we'll still hear fans outside on the streets still singing that song. So it's a I'm so pleased that we managed to come up with that, because it is our calling card. Yeah.
It's definitely an arena anthem, a stadium sing-along.
Well, yes. So we need to book in some more stadiums, don't we?
I wanted to ask, where did the inspiration for the cover art for this Chasing Rainbows come about? You know, the man holding a bouquet of flowers outside a bingo hall.
Well, so I suppose it's the sentiment of the song. It's yearning for things that you can't ever get or want. So he's obviously set up a blind date, and he's waiting patiently for his blind date to turn up. And the back of the cover is actually some wilted flowers in a bin. So obviously she never turned up. So it's just all of that kind of the chasing rainbows
Yeah.
aspect of life, isn't it, really? Yeah.
And have you personally found that pot of gold yet?
Well, I'm getting closer. We had a number one album this year, which is the first one we've ever had. It took us 30 years to get there. So that's an amazing achievement. But to be fair, I always look forward. There's always something new to try and achieve or to enjoy. So, we're having an amazing 30th anniversary year. We're doing lots and lots of things that we've never really had the opportunity to do. We've got this new greatest hits that's just come out this week, which sounds amazing, with an orchestra all over it. We've gone back into the studio and re-recorded the songs rather than just release the original compositions again. So we've put some time and effort into it. We've done it in a loving way for our fans. The orchestra just takes the songs in a whole new direction, even though they are the original songs. So I'm keen for people to hear that, and hopefully they'll listen to it in years to come.
Give them like a new breath of life.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. So we've looked at the arrangements. We've not mucked about with them too much, because people love the originals, and we don't want to destroy people's thoughts on the original song. But equally, we wanted it to make it sound fresh and current and relevant. So I think we've straddled that fine line very well, I think.
That's amazing. I know Speakeasy is another standout track from your back catalogue, and I know it was featured like in a well-known advert. Did you have reservations on that being used commercially to promote a product?
Yeah, well, we agreed to it for a year run, and we didn't really get much money for it, which we were a bit annoyed about at the time. And then they kind of extended the contract without telling us, so that song became synonymous with that phone company for a long time. And it was a little bit cheeky, that, really. But, we live and learn, don't we?
And thanks for sharing that. And I wanted to move on to Devil in Your Shoes. I know it has an ominous song title, but was this one of your personal favourites? As you say, it's had a liquid gold makeover.
Yeah, it does sound really good, this new version. I mean, again, Devil in Your Shoes, it's basically about a relationship where one of the people is kind of ruining it for the other one. So that's why they become the devil in somebody's shoes. You're walking all over the times when I've known you and smile. That's the lyric. And that's a firm fan favourite. We've played that a lot over the years. That came out in 1998. So I mean, again, it's decades ago, isn't it? It's quite scary when you start actually naming years where these things came out. It's actually a long time ago. In fact, that was released the same year that I had my first child. So he's 26. So that song's 26. They're like twins.
That's amazing. And I know you touched on talking about, the liquid gold, well, not remixes, but like the new Breath of Life.
Yeah.
Is there a noticeable difference between the liquid golds and the original?
Well, only because there's a big orchestra being put on it, so that takes everything off in a different direction. It gives you the feels. An orchestra gives you the feels. I think out of the 12 songs on the new album, I think every one of them at some point will make the hairs stand up on the back of your neck. It's got that kind of real joyous, emotional heft to it. So, as I say, I'm really looking forward to people to listen to it a few times, get their head around it, and then hopefully they'll listen to it for the rest of their lives.
That's cool. I know like some of the greats have used like philharmonical sounds as well. Has like the violins and cellos and the strings always been like a love for yourself?
Well, it really has, yeah. I mean, I've grown up listening to bands which use string sections. I mean, Andrew Loog Oldham used to manage the Rolling Stones in the early 60s, and he he did versions of the Stones tracks with just an orchestra, with no guitars or drums or anything on it. And it's always lovely to hear different versions of songs like that. But in this day and age, it's great to have us playing alongside it. And who knows, maybe in the future we'll do a few gigs with a big orchestra behind us, and that will be an amazing moment for us. So fingers crossed that will happen at some point.
Great. We talked to reminisce about, some of like your early material, the 90s and onto today as well. You're doing some in-store personal signings at HMV in towns and cities across the
Yeah,
UK. Is it really refreshing to get up close and personal with your supporters? It's a great concept, isn't it, that?
well, it is. So we're going to visit 14 record stores in 7 days. So that's 2 a day up and down the country, where we'll play 3 or 4 acoustic songs on the record shop floor, and then we'll meet the people that have bought our albums. We'll sign it for them. We'll say thank you for buying our album, because it's quite clear in this day and age, not a lot of people have a lot of money. So for them to choose to buy our album when they could be spending it on something else is an amazing thing. So it's really important to be able to say thank you to people for that. So we'll do that, and then at the end of the year we have this huge tour to celebrate the last celebrations of the 30th anniversary. So we'll play a lot of big hits from the past. We'll play a few songs off our last album that went to #1 that we feel a little bit like we've been ignoring, because it's all been about Liquid Gold over the past couple of months. So we feel like we've been ignoring our brand new studio songs. So they'll get a little bit of an airing. So it'll be a great way to end the year, definitely.
And do you still get that buzz more than ever, from touring, performing, whether there's like 100, 1,000 or 10,000 people in that room or stadium?
Oh, massively so. I mean, that it's our lifeblood. It's what we do. It's why, when we were dead young kids, we wanted to learn instruments so that we could stand on a stage and show off in front of people. And that feeling's never gone. And I mean, at the end of the day, if you think about it logically, if you're stood on a stage and there's 4,000 people singing every word back at you that you've written, there's nothing better. There's nothing better. And equally, because we've been doing it for so long, if I fancy just having a little rest, I can just let everyone else sing it.
That's amazing. You have a sense of fulfillment.
Oh, it's amazing. It's the biggest buzz in the world. It's very difficult to come down off that, because it's not only, it's not like I'm being a glorified karaoke singer. It's the songs we wrote and we've cherished for a long time, and for people to come and look like they're having the best night of their lives singing every word back at you when it's your songs that you've written. And it goes to show that the songs we've written have stood the test of time, and long may that continue to be the case. Yeah.
And in your humble opinion, is it great to see, like, Britpop, alternative, indie music making a revival after, like, 20, 30 years, give inspiration to young people now to form bands and make music?
Without a doubt, and I'm seeing that more and more. I'm seeing lots of young kids getting on a stage with guitars strapped around them, and I'm seeing lots of young kids there pogoing away, loving it, singing away, so that hopefully the future's healthy for young bands to get out there and do the business, definitely.
And do you have any like strong advice to give upcoming bands, just starting out? I know there's the infamous rock and roll lifestyle that comes with it.
Well, to be fair, the only advice I would give is just never give up. Just keep doing it. Keep playing live. Keep doing gigs. Even if you're playing in front of 3 people and you're a bit down and you're thinking, what is the point in this? As long as you've got it in your heart and you believe in what you're doing, anything could happen at any point. And we're proof of that. We've been going 30 years. We've had our ups and downs. We could have thrown the towel in, but we just didn't. So the only advice I would ever give to anyone is just persevere. Just keep. If you love it that much and it's what you feel you want, just keep persevering. Definitely. I mean, we found ourselves, before we had a record deal, we were going up and down the M1 in a transit van with snare drums on our laps, driving from York to London, which is like a 5-hour drive in a van, turning up and playing in front of 4 or 5 people in a pub in London, and then packing our gear up and driving all the way home again. And it would be understandable to think, oh God, why are we doing this? But we never ever thought that. We always thought we're good at what we do. We're special, and anything could happen at any time. So persevere, self-belief. That's the thing.
Great answer. And do you find in the music business it's so unpredictable sometimes? You have your quiet peaks, and then it can just take off when you least expect it.
Yeah, well, exactly that. It's like what I said about being on a roller coaster. I mean, you just got to cling on. There's ups, there's downs, there's twists, there's turns, there's arguments, there's celebrations. We fit it all in 30 years, and you know what? I'm looking forward to speaking to you again in another 30 years when we're celebrating 60 years anniversary.
That's amazing. And what I've always admired about Shed 7, you've always been grounded and you've just been yourself. And that's a good quality to have. You've known your roots as well. And Yorkshire, where you're from, is that
Mm.
always been like home to you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we never wanted to leave York. We had the opportunity to when we were young kids and we got a record deal. We could have moved to London and done what everyone else does, but our family's here, our friends are here, and it's 2 hours on a train.
Mm,
So we go to London, we do what we need to do, and then we come home again. And the grounded thing, we just understand life. I mean, there's no point in swanning around bragging all the time. It won't
mm,
get you anywhere. We just write songs. We love the art of writing songs, and we're
mm.
very grateful that people want to listen to it and spend the time listening to it and love it. And as long as that happens, we're here.
It's great. You still have the affinity for your home place, York. And would you definitely recommend a visit to anyone who hasn't been there before?
Oh, without a doubt, York's an absolutely lovely city. I mean, obviously, when you're younger, you're guilty of taking things for granted. We'd be in pubs a lot. We'd ignore the historic side of York because we were too busy just being young kids. But the older you get, the more you realise what a beautiful place it is, and it's very historic and it's very touristy. I make a point these days of at least one weekend a year being a tourist in my own city.
Mason. And you mentioned when I asked the question, are you still looking for the pot of gold? You said one of your highlights was hitting that elusive #1 spot, with your album. And
Yeah.
do you still feel there's more golden moments to come?
Without a doubt. To be fair, if we never had a number one, it was not the end of the world. We don't do it really for that. We do it because we love creating things. I love waking up on a morning with nothing there, and then possibly by the end of the day, we've written a song and
Mm.
it's there forever. So chart positions are great, and being able to walk around saying we've had a number one is an amazing thing because we've done it and we've had it, but it just makes me want another one.
Mm. Mm.
Call me greedy.
No. You can never stop yearning, can you?
No,
Desiring.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, it's game over once you stop.
Mm. And you probably get asked so many times by DJs and radio presenters and journalists, do you have a favorite standout track, from your catalog? Or are you just proud of everything you've done?
Yeah, it's difficult that because they are all our babies, really. I
Mm,
mean, some of them we don't discuss how we're going to write songs. We don't discuss where things should go. Basically, we write a set of songs, and then once we've written a set of songs, we'll know ourselves what is a potential single, what's a potential album track, what's a potential B-side, what's a potential extra track on a 12-inch single, or what's a track that's going to collect dust on a shelf. So we just kind of know.
mm,
So playing live, there's certain songs that are just a treat to do because of the crowd reaction. You know, for me, I get excited about the newer songs because they're newer. So I want to get out there and show these newer songs. But at the end of the day, we've touched upon Chasing Rainbows. It's a moment whenever we play live. So if you were bending my arm behind my back, you can't beat the moment of playing that.
mm. And you mentioned like some of the newer material you put out there. Kiss in California, I know that was released last July 2023.
Mm.
Was that a personal experience of like being in America?
Well, to be honest, the whole of the lyrics off the Matter of Time album, it's very much not a COVID record, but I was writing a lot of these words down into my notebook whilst in that period of time. And I've noticed since that a lot of the lyrics are about travel, getting outside, doing things, meeting people, having fun. Because at the time we weren't allowed to do any of that. So it's not a COVID record in any way whatsoever, but obviously subconsciously with me at the time, I'm trapped in my house and I'm writing. I mean, Kissing California, it's a story. It's about going out for a laugh with your loved one or your best mate and spending some time just having the best time. It's basically the
Mm.
message, really.
Amazing. And Waiting for the Catch as well. That features Izzy Ferris as well. Was that a good collab, to work on with?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, she's got a lovely voice. She's got a really great, sweet female voice that we exactly what we wanted, and that counteracts my foghorn vocals. It was important to get a nice lady to sing on it because the whole song is a call and response. It's our first duet, really, and it's about a feeling that I guess quite a few people would maybe get over a space of time. I can't live with you, and I can't live without you. I think that's quite a universal feeling. So it was lovely to get Izzy on, and she did an amazing job. And to be fair, it's one of our most recent brand new songs, and I'm hoping that it kind of is up there with our biggest songs, really. So to be still doing that 30 years later is great.
It's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. That's very kind of you to say.
Yeah, and by this time this interview goes out, airs, you would have some exciting news to tell everyone. And also me to do really is ask you, is there any song you may like for me to play on my radio show?
Well, I tell you what, Seeing is Waiting for the Catch is the most current single. If you could give that a spin, that would be amazing.
That's fine. We will do that now. And Rick Witter from Shed 7, I just wanted to say thank you very much for joining me on today's show, to have a bit of a reminiscence and then talk about your latest project as well. And very best of luck with your latest upcoming tour.
Thank you, Danny. Thank
Yeah.
you very much for having me on.
It's been a delight to have you on.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Take care. Take care.